The rain hammered against the cracked asphalt as Officer Derek Kane's patrol car rolled to a stop behind the silver sedan. His headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the license plate. It was nearly midnight, and the streets of Riverside were empty except for this one vehicle that had allegedly rolled through a stop sign 3 blocks back. Derek stepped out, his hand resting on his belt, eyes narrowed with suspicion. The driver's window rolled down slowly, revealing a black man in his early 40s, wearing a simple jacket and glasses. His hands were already on the steering wheel, visible and steady. "License and registration," Derek barked, his tone sharp and cold. "Of course, officer," Marcus Chen replied calmly, reaching slowly toward his glove compartment. His movements were deliberate, careful. He had been through situations like this before, too many times to count. Derek snatched the documents from Marcus's hand, barely glancing at them. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus hesitated for just a second. "May I ask why?" "I've provided my documentation, and I believe I was driving safely." That hesitation, that question, it was all Derek needed. His face twisted with anger. "I said get out. Now. Don't make me ask again." Marcus complied, stepping onto the wet pavement with his hands raised slightly. The rain soaked through his jacket within seconds. He stood there, calm but alert, watching Derek's every move. "Turn around. Hands on the car." Derek shouted, his voice echoing through the empty street. Marcus followed the command, placing his palms flat against the cold metal of his vehicle. Derek approached from behind, roughly patting him down with unnecessary force. Then, without warning, Derek grabbed Marcus's arm and twisted it backward. "You think you can question me? You think you have rights out here?" Derek hissed into Marcus's ear. "Officer, I'm complying with everything you asked," Marcus said, his voice still steady despite the pain shooting through his shoulder. Derek's response was swift and brutal. He spun Marcus around and drove his fist into Marcus's jaw. The impact sent Marcus stumbling backward, blood trickling from his lip. But Marcus didn't fight back. He didn't raise his hands in defense. He simply straightened himself, looked Derek directly in the eyes, and remained silent. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the night. 2 more patrol cars pulled up, their lights painting the scene in alternating red and blue. Officers jumped out, taking in the situation with confusion written across their faces. "What's going on here, Kane?" Officer Lisa Hernandez asked, her hand instinctively moving toward her radio. "Traffic violation," suspect resisted. Derek lied smoothly, wiping his knuckles on his pants. Marcus said nothing. He simply stood there, blood on his face, rain pouring down, his expression unreadable. Lisa noticed something strange in his eyes, not fear or anger, but something else entirely. Knowledge, perhaps. Certainty. "Sir, do you need medical attention?" Lisa asked, approaching Marcus carefully. "I'll be fine," Marcus replied quietly. "But I would like the badge numbers of all officers present, and I want this incident documented with a formal report." Derek laughed, a harsh sound that grated against the drumming rain. "You want to file a complaint? Good luck with that. You have any idea who my uncle is?" "Captain Raymond Kane, 25 years on the force. Your complaint will disappear before it even reaches a desk." Marcus smiled slightly, despite the pain in his jaw. "File the report anyway, Officer Hernandez. Make sure it's thorough." Lisa exchanged glances with her partner, Officer James Wright. Something about this man's composure, his confidence, it didn't add up. Most people in his situation would be angry, afraid, or demanding answers. But Marcus Chen seemed almost calm, as if he knew something they didn't. "We'll get you checked out and take your statement," Lisa said, guiding Marcus toward her patrol car. Derek watched them go, his confidence unwavering. He had done this before, pushed boundaries, crossed lines. And every time, his uncle had made the problems disappear. this would be no different. Just another complaint that would vanish into the bureaucratic void. The next morning, the Riverside Police Department was buzzing with unusual energy. Word had spread that the new chief was arriving today, earlier than expected. Captain Raymond Kane stood in the main briefing room, adjusting his uniform nervously. He had heard rumors about the new chief, a decorated officer from the Metro Division with a reputation for reform and zero tolerance for misconduct. Derek strolled in, coffee in hand, completely unaware of the tension in the room. He had slept well, unconcerned about the previous night's events. The doors at the back of the briefing room opened, and conversations died instantly. A figure walked through, confident and purposeful. Derek glanced up from his phone and froze. The coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. It was him. The man from last night. But now he wore a crisp uniform, 3 stars gleaming on his collar. "Good morning," Marcus Chen said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the silent room. "I'm Chief Marcus Chen, and as of this moment, I'm in command of this department." Derek's face drained of all color. His uncle, Captain Raymond Kane, looked like he might be sick. The room remained absolutely silent, every officer staring at the new chief, then at Derek, then back again. Marcus walked slowly to the front of the room, his jaw still slightly swollen from Derek's punch. He let the silence stretch, let the weight of the moment settle over everyone present. "Last night, at approximately 11:45, I was pulled over by one of your officers," Marcus began, his tone measured and clear. "I was assaulted during that stop. Punched in the face for asking a simple question about why I was being ordered out of my vehicle." Derek wanted to run, to disappear, but his legs wouldn't move. He stood frozen, trapped in a nightmare of his own making. "Officer Derek Kane," Marcus said, looking directly at him. "Step forward." Derek stumbled forward, his confidence completely shattered. He looked desperately at his uncle, but Captain Kane was staring at the floor, unable or unwilling to meet his nephew's eyes. Marcus pulled out his phone and played a video. The sound filled the room, Derek's voice, harsh and aggressive, then the unmistakable sound of the punch. Marcus had been wearing a body camera of his own, a habit from his years working undercover. "I have witnesses, I have video evidence, and I have a medical report documenting my injuries," Marcus continued. "But more importantly, I pulled Officer Kane's file this morning. This isn't his first complaint. It's his 7th. 7 complaints of excessive force, all dismissed or buried." Murmurs rippled through the assembled officers. Lisa Hernandez stood straighter, vindication and horror mixing on her face. She had suspected Kane was dirty, but 7 complaints. How had he survived that? Marcus turned his attention to Captain Raymond Kane. "Captain, you've been protecting your nephew for 3 years. You used your position and influence to make complaints disappear, to intimidate witnesses, to falsify reports. That ends today." Raymond Kane's shoulders sagged. 25 years of service, ending in disgrace because he couldn't let his nephew face the consequences of his actions. "Effective immediately, Officer Derek Kane, you are suspended without pay pending a full internal investigation," Marcus announced. "Captain Raymond Kane, you are also suspended and will face a separate inquiry into your conduct and abuse of authority." Derek finally found his voice, desperate and pleading. "Chief, please, I made a mistake. I didn't know who you were. If I had known." Marcus held up his hand, cutting him off. "That's exactly the problem, Officer Kane. You didn't know who I was, so you thought you could treat me however you wanted. You thought my life, my dignity, my rights didn't matter because of how I looked. Because you believed you were untouchable." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But here's the truth, it shouldn't matter who I am. I could be a chief, or I could be a teacher, a mechanic, or someone just trying to get home safely. Every person deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Every person has rights that must be protected, not violated. Marcus turned to address the entire department now, his voice rising with passion and purpose. I came to Riverside because I was told this department needed change. I see now that the problems run deeper than I thought. But I also see good officers here, people like Officer Hernandez and Officer Wright, who tried to do the right thing last night. Lisa felt tears prick her eyes. For so long, she had felt alone in her efforts to maintain integrity in a department riddled with corruption. Starting today, we're implementing new policies, Marcus continued. Body cameras will be mandatory for all officers, no exceptions. Every complaint will be investigated by an independent review board. Training on de-escalation and bias awareness will be required quarterly. And any officer who violates the public trust will face swift and severe consequences. He locked eyes with Derek one final time. You wanted to know who I was, Officer Kane. I'm the son of immigrants who worked 3 jobs to put me through college. I'm a man who has faced discrimination and prejudice my entire life but chose to serve anyway, to be the change I wanted to see. I'm someone who believes in justice, real justice, not the selective kind that protects the powerful and punishes the vulnerable. Derek hung his head, unable to meet Marcus's gaze. 2 officers stepped forward and escorted him out of the briefing room, his badge and weapon already surrendered. Marcus watched him go, feeling no satisfaction in the moment, only a heavy sense of purpose. This was just one officer, one department, but it was a start. The road ahead won't be easy, Marcus said to the remaining officers. Some of you will resist these changes. Some of you might even choose to leave rather than adapt. But for those who stay, for those who truly want to serve and protect every member of this community, I promise you this. I will fight for you, I will support you, and I will hold you to the highest standards because you deserve leadership that believes in you. The room erupted in applause, not from everyone, but from enough officers to give Marcus hope. Change was possible. Justice was possible. As the briefing ended and officers filed out, Lisa Hernandez approached Marcus. Chief, I just want to say thank you. Last night, when I saw what happened, I knew something was wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't do more. Marcus smiled, genuine warmth in his expression despite the fading bruise on his jaw. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, Officer Hernandez. You documented everything, you treated me with respect, and you followed procedure. That's all I can ask of any officer under my command. She nodded, relief washing over her face. It's going to be different now, isn't it? Yes, Marcus replied with certainty. It's going to be very different. Outside the station, Derek Kane sat in his car, no longer a police officer, facing criminal charges and a future he had never imagined. His arrogance had been his downfall, his prejudice the weapon that destroyed his career. He had thought he was above consequences, protected by his uncle's influence and the broken system that had allowed him to abuse his power for so long. But justice had found him anyway, wearing a badge and carried by a man who refused to be silent, who refused to accept that things couldn't change. Inside the station, Chief Marcus Chen stood at his new office window, looking out at the city he had sworn to serve. The rain had stopped, and sunlight was breaking through the clouds, casting long shadows across the streets below. There was so much work to be done, so many wrongs to right, so many officers to retrain and policies to reform. But for the first time in his long career, Marcus felt genuine hope. Not because one bad officer had been removed, but because a community would see that accountability was possible, that justice wasn't just a word but a promise that could be kept. The badge on his chest felt heavier than ever, weighted with responsibility and purpose. Marcus touched it gently, thinking of all the people who had worn badges before him, both those who had honored the oath and those who had betrayed it. He would be different. He would make sure this department was different. And maybe, just maybe, that difference would spread beyond Riverside, inspiring other departments, other chiefs, other officers to stand up and demand better, because at the end of the day, justice wasn't about revenge or punishment alone. It was about creating a world where a traffic stop was just a traffic stop, where the color of someone's skin didn't determine how they were treated, where every person could drive home safely without fear. That was the world Marcus Chen was fighting for. And he had just won his first battle.